There is no doubt that Ethereum is hot right now. So hot, in fact, that the network is not able to keep up with demand. Gas fees are creeping up to some seriously unsustainable levels. This is only likely to get worse given the current DeFi craze and ever-delayed Ethereum 2.0 mainnet launch. This therefore means that the very practicality of Ethereum may soon be in question, unless we can find a realistic short-term scaling solution. This is precisely what the OMG network is trying to achieve. My name is Guy, and in this video I'll give you exactly what you need to know about the OMG network. I'll take you through its history, tech, use cases, and broader adoption potential. I'll also take an in-depth look at the tokenomics of OMG and give you my own personal price prediction, so be sure to stick around till the end if you want those pearls of crypto wisdom. Before we get cracking, I need to dot my I's and cross my T's. Firstly, I have to fill you folks in on a little secret. I am not a financial advisor. I know, shocking. This means that everything I say is merely for educational purposes. Please consult your financial oracle before making moves in the crypto space. And secondly, if you just happen to be passing along, welcome to the Bureau. Over here, I cover everything crypto, from news to reviews and handy guides. So if you want to join that rocket ship of knowledge, be sure to subscribe. And if you turn those notifications on, the overlords at YouTube will let you know whenever I release another video. And finally, feel free to adjust the playback speed to your liking or to use these handy timestamps I've provided right over here. Alrighty then, onwards with OMG. So what is the OMG network? Well, quite simply, it's a layer 2 scaling protocol for Ethereum. It aims to achieve higher transaction throughput at a lower cost, all while leveraging the security guarantees of the Ethereum network. Basically, it's a scaling protocol that is built on the Ethereum Plasma framework and made it more secure and practical. It's also quite unique from other sidechain solutions out there, something I'll touch on in a bit. What's important to note though is that the OMG network is not a new project. It used to be called Omise Go until a rebranding in June of this year. Omise Go has a storied history, and for those of you who follow the channel, you'll no doubt have seen me covering it in the past. Essentially, Omise Go was a project that was started by a company called Omise. Omise is an online payment gateway based in Thailand that was founded in 2013 by a chap called Jun Hasegawa. The company managed to gain substantial market share in Southeast Asia and operated much like a Stripe or a PayPal. Merchant solutions, remittances, etc., etc. Along came 2017 and the company saw all the buzz about blockchain and how it could radically change their business model. Being 2017, of course, they saw the opportunity to conduct an ICO and tap the investor sentiment of the time. Given the strong track record of the company, they managed to garner some pretty strong support from high-profile individuals. These included none other than Vitalik Buterin, a man that does not really need an introduction. Of course, such star power advisors don't come without some impressive project goals. Omise Go was the project that would be pushing forward with Plasma, the new Ethereum scaling solution. During the ICO, they were able to raise a relatively mild $25 million in exchange for 65% of the OMG token supply. Long story short, the project was a long time coming. The token languished and many were wondering if the project would ever see the light of day. However, towards the end of last year, with a replacement of the founder and a new CEO, development got back on track. They completely separated it from the Omise company and forged ahead with their unique Plasma implementation. In January of this year, the last time I covered them, there were rumours that Omise Go was close to a mainnet launch. Then, in June, they released it on beta and decided to rebrand to the OMG network. Needless to say, the market viewed this quite favourably. As if out of the blue, a project that was once written off was back from the dead. Not only that, but it's emerged as one of the most promising Ethereum scaling solutions around. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty of the network, we need to have a brief chat about why an additional scaling solution is needed. You'll no doubt know that I'm a big fan of Ethereum. I've covered it on several occasions and am super bullish about the potential for ETH in the next few years. Ethereum 2.0 will supercharge the network and turn it into that global decentralized computer we all envisioned. However, I'm also realistic. This will take some time. Time to test, roll out, and iterate. Time that we don't really have. You see, things have gotten pretty busy on the network. The combination of gas-guzzling stablecoins and DeFi yield farmers has pushed those gas fees to astronomical highs. I mean, just take a look at this graph. These fees are at the highest level we've seen in a number of years. This even eclipses those CryptoKitty days back in 2018. In fact, on some of the DeFi protocols, users were reporting gas fees of as much as $100. I tried to do a swap on 1inch exchange the other day with fees that were over $75. This means that DeFi is limited to those who have a lot of capital, and it's excluding those users who would like to start small, the very antithesis of decentralization. So, why is this the case? Well, it all comes down to the design of blockchains, especially those like Ethereum 1.0's that rely on proof-of-work algorithms. All transactions have to be processed synchronously and one after the other. They have to be hashed on the network and added to the chain. The more transactions and smart contract operations that are waiting to be added, the slower the network. The more users there are willing to pay higher gas fees to process their transactions more quickly. However, what would happen if we were able to take some of these transactions off of the main Ethereum chain? What happens if we were to batch them in a side chain or an off-chain network? A network would only ever need to update the main chain as to its current state, instead of about every transaction that took place. A network that, should it become bloated, would not impact the entire ecosystem. That would be great, right? Well, this is exactly what Plasma and other sidechain solutions are trying to achieve. This is how the OMG network is looking to take some of the current stresses off of the Ethereum network. And that now brings me onto the technology of the OMG network. So let's take a look at that, shall we? So, what the heck is Plasma anyway? Well, it's a scaling framework that was first envisioned by Vitalik Buterin and Joseph Poon back in 2017. For those who don't know who this Joseph chap is, he was one of the co-creators of the Lightning Network, Bitcoin's off-chain scaling solution. And what's important to know about Plasma, though, is that it's not a specific project or protocol. It's a framework which provides a number of different tools that other blockchains use in order to build their own Layer 2 solutions. Now, from this Plasma framework, we have our very own MVP. Yes, minimum viable Plasma is the real MVP, and it's the most simplified Plasma implementation that projects can use in order to build these Layer 2 solutions. These Layer 2 solutions on Plasma are called Childchains, and they are not to be confused with sidechains. Unlike the latter, Plasma chains are fully trustless, rely on Ethereum smart contracts for security, and are well optimized for settlements and throughput. I've linked to a blog post below which explains the main differences between the two Layer 2 scaling solutions. There is one more detail to point out here. The OMG network has made a few of their own changes to minimum viable Plasma and called this more viable Plasma, or their MoreVP design. It shares most of the same properties except for one user improvement. This all comes down to how confirmation signatures are used. On MVP, transactions are considered invalid until they're signed twice. This makes the process quite cumbersome and defeats the purpose of a scalable and fast Layer 2 solution. With MoreVP, there are no confirmation signatures required. This is simply because the process through which users withdraw their funds is modified. The exact mechanics of how this works is beyond the scope of this video, but I've linked to their docs below should you want to read more about it. Okay, so this is what OMG's MoreVP is, but how the hell does it work? Well, quite simply, it's a separate child chain network that sits on top of the main Ethereum root chain. Essentially, the child chain receives transaction requests from users, validates them, and assembles them into blocks that it publishes back to the root chain. It's a UTXO-based non-custodial network in which you are in full control of your keys. Beyond these core elements, there's no prescribed configuration for a Plasma chain. They can take on different consensus protocols, block validation mechanisms, or fraud proofs. The design is adaptable to the use case. Still with me so far? The real genius part about the plasma chains is that they're able to guarantee the safety of user funds even if the consensus mechanism fails. This is due to their unique exit mechanism. To exit the child chain, a user submits an exit transaction and an exit bond to the root chain. The exit is subject to a challenge period, during which any user can prove, if applicable, that the exit is invalid. If successfully shown to be invalid, the exit is not processed and the challenger is awarded the exit bond. These unique economic incentives are able to keep users on the OMG network honest and ensure that users are indeed withdrawing funds they have a right to. When it comes to consensus, the OMG network uses proof of authority that's controlled by a block producer node known as the operator. Despite this centralized block producer, they have decentralized security through a network of what are called watchers. These are the network participants that check the child chain conforms with the protocol and does not withhold blocks or tamper with transaction ordering. A watcher could be run by anyone on the network, including you and me. Okay, so I know this was a lot to take in, and top marks if you're still following. The main thing that I need to get across is how the OMG network has developed a completely trustless Layer 2 solution, one that users can feel safe operating within. This is essential not just for developer adoption, but also for enterprise users that have security as one of their most pressing concerns in general. I'll cover the adoption potential in a bit, but before that, we have to take a look at one more central component of the network, and that is the OMG Network token. OMG is an ERC20 utility token within the OMG network. The primary purpose of the token will be for staking when the network transitions to a proof-of-stake model. Essentially, those who hold OMG will be able to take an active role on the network by running validator nodes using their tokens as a security deposit. They'll receive compensation for their active participation in the network. However, what is important to note here is that the fee paid to the validators does not have to be in OMG. It can be paid out in any currency that the users are willing to accept. Now, this does crimp utility demand a bit, I must admit. That being said, the true value for the token will be backed by the value of the amounts transacted on the OMG network. These assets include both real-world currencies and cryptocurrencies that users push through the network via a variety of means, including DeFi applications and enterprise users. Now, while these are the primary use cases for the OMG token, the developers have said that it could evolve over time as the network is rolled out. In terms of the token metrics, there's a total supply of just over 140 million tokens. This was all created in the crowd sale, and as mentioned, 65% of that was sold to investors. A further 5% was airdropped to ETH holders, and the remaining 30% was kept in the OMG reserves and for the founding team. What is important to note here, though, is that the token supply is fixed at 140 million. There is no inflationary aspect built into the protocol. This has important implications about the long-term value of the token. Speaking of which, how does all this impact on the price of OMG? Price is just an economic equation that finds a balance between the supply and demand of a token. It's important to analyze both aspects before you can come to a reasonable conclusion about price predictions. Firstly, let's take a look at the supply side of that equation. As mentioned, there's a fixed supply of 140 million tokens. This will not be increased or inflated away through any new issuance through block rewards and the like. This places a natural limit on the total tokens on the market and drives scarcity of the token. However, let us also not forget that once staking is launched on the network, users will be locking up OMG in order to stake. Although users can pay for fees in any other currency, they do require OMG to stake. When this is done, it is taking OMG off the market and reducing the circulating supply. Generally, a reduction in the supply is price positive, holding other factors equal. Of course, we cannot really hold other factors equal, as there's also a demand side to it. Users will also want to buy OMG in order to stake. Let's not forget that anyone can participate in a proof-of-stake system. If these nodes are able to earn considerable fees from staking their OMG, then they're likely to want to do so. The main question you'll have to ask yourself is how much network demand there will be on the OMG sidechains. The more network demand, the more users are paying the nodes to secure said network, and hence the more chance to earn fees. This is why one can say that the OMG token is a conduit for the value that's transacted on top of it. So, from a fundamental perspective, you have more demand to stake and a lower supply on the market. Putting these two together, you have a potential price increase. Now, of course, staking is not live on the OMG network. We have only just had a release of the mainnet, and they're working towards this decentralized incentive mechanism. Yet, if you've been following the price of OMG over the past month, investors have got ahead of the fundamentals. And this then brings me on to another demand driver, and that is investor demand. Prior to May of this year, many investors had kind of given up on OMG. The price was near all-time lows and volume was paltry at best. Then, in May of this year, OMG got a much-needed boost from a well-known source. Coinbase Pro decided to list the token, which piqued traders' interest and led to that much-touted Coinbase pump. Then in June of this year, we had that mainnet launch. While interest and volume did pick up a bit, it was rather muted and prices started to slide again. This was until only a few weeks ago, when trading interest and volume exploded on OMG. Many people seem to have thought that it came from nowhere, but I think it was just a broad market realization of the need for Layer 2 solutions. The more that investors started to realize that Ethereum 2.0 was likely to be delayed, the more they wanted to diversify their Ethereum holdings. The insane gas fees lately brought home the sober reality of a bloated network. It's also no coincidence that other Layer 2 solutions like Raiden and Matic have seen increased trader interest over the past few weeks. So, you have this increasing investor demand looking to hodl OMG. Given that we only have a certain amount of it on the market, it's no surprise then that price followed that general market demand. Of course, there was one more kicker that really helped to pump that token skyward, and that was a pretty large endorsement. Tether, the world's most valuable stablecoin ecosystem, has a love affair with Ethereum. So much so that in October of last year, the value of all Tether on the Ethereum blockchain exceeded that of the legacy Omni layer. The ERC20-based Tether has continued to grow in market capitalization. Heck, even after trying other blockchains like Tron, Tether users have decided that they would prefer to use Ethereum-based Tether addresses. Now, while this should be great for Ethereum in theory, it is having a negative side effect for the network. Tether is known to be a pretty big gas guzzler. Take a look at this chart here. Tether is second only to Uniswap when it comes to fees paid in the past 30 days. That's no good, and it means that fees for all those other DeFi dApps below it are prohibitively expensive. So you can imagine the market's optimism when it was announced that Tether has integrated with the OMG network. This means that Tether transactions can now be done on the OMG network with a fraction of the cost that they would have been done on the Ethereum main chain. The market clearly took this quite positively. The general consensus is that it could be the first salvo of many. If using the OMG network saves Tether users a lot of time and money, more integrations are likely to follow. Let's also not forget that Tether is only one of the many Ethereum-based stablecoins on the market. Is it at all conceivable that stablecoins such as USDC could integrate with the likes of the OMG network? What about Pax or Gemini Dollar? Or what about all that tokenized and wrapped Bitcoin that we now have on the Ethereum ecosystem? The benefit of them moving over to Ethereum was the lower fees and easier scaling. If the OMG network can provide a realistic alternative, they may also consider integrations. This is all me speculating though, but they are reasonable questions. Now, I think it's about time that I started wrapping things up here, folks. So, what do I really think of the OMG network? Well, I'm definitely of the view that we cannot solely rely on Ethereum 2.0 as the only solution to all our scaling woes. It is going to take time, and recent issues on the Medela testnet show that it's not a home run. Let's also not forget that the 2.0 launch is a staged process which will take some time to fully manifest those improvements. Layer 2 solutions don't only have the ability to take a lot of that strain off of the Ethereum network in the short to medium term, but they also have the potential to supercharge adoption when it is finally rolled out. While there are currently quite a few second layer alternatives, there's no denying that the OMG network has the first mover advantage. The recent mainnet launch and Tether integration shows that Plasma is no longer a theoretical framework, but a realistic sidechain solution that's not only secure, but practical. If these do turn out to be a success, then there are a lot of dApps and Ethereum-based platforms that are looking for a place to escape high fees. A network that ensures they're fully in control of their funds and can exit to the main chain whenever they like. Of course, I do need to point out the obvious. The OMG network is still brand new and Plasma is still quite experimental. As we've also seen on other networks like Bitcoin, sidechain solutions like the Lightning Network have had a rough time when it comes to broader adoption. Similarly, if Ethereum 2.0 manages to launch soon and it's such a massive improvement in usability, it could make off-chain scaling solutions redundant. I mean, it's still early days. Time will tell, but it's a project I definitely have my eye on. Oh yes, that price prediction. Well, I am of the view that OMG has rallied quite a bit in the last few days. Perhaps this was just euphoria or FOMO at the prospect of that Tether integration. I would not be surprised if we see some short to medium term retracement. However, as more users start migrating to the OMG network, we are likely to see renewed interest in the token. I would not be surprised if OMG was above $15 by the end of the year. Of course, this all assumes that there isn't a massive breakthrough on the Ethereum 2.0 front before then, so be sure to keep up with developments there. And that's it, fellow fans, my overview of the OMG network. Of course, no video is complete without your all-important feedback. What do you folks think of my OMG prediction? Do you people have any other Layer 2 solutions that you want me to know about? Fire them into the comments. Finally, thanks for watching. If this video is helpful, then help me to help you. Smash up that like button and let YouTube know how you feel. Also, don't forget to subscribe, as I have a red-hot pipeline you don't want to miss. I hope you folks enjoyed that video, but honestly, I just have so much more that I want to share. Stuff that I couldn't really fit into this video, sadly. This is exactly why I have a weekly newsletter. It's basically a compilation of all the interesting content that may have flown under your radar. News, reviews, analysis, and hot market tips. Wanna join? Well, don't delay. Just scoot on over to the description where you'll find a link to my sign-up form. There you can enter your email address and hit submit. You then just have to confirm your email and, hey presto, you are a member. My next newsletter is being worked on as we speak, one you won't want to miss. See you next time, folks.